No matter what's your age, gender, or current level of performance, there are certain exercises that have incredible benefits for everyone. These exercises develop a strong, mobile, and healthy body. They can be used as a warm-up, a mobility training, or a workout itself. It just depends on your individual goals and your current training level. The first exercise is touching your toes. This is something we all know and most of us have tried it before. Touching your toes sounds simple, but for many this is not the case. If you aren't able to do it, the reason could be a poor flexibility in your hamstrings, your spine, or even your calves. There are also other points which make this exercise harder, like when you rather have long legs compared to your torso and arms, or when you do it without warming up. But most should be able to do it with a little practice. First of all, we have to take a look on how you should do it and the big difference the body alignment can make. You can do it with a straight back and an anterior pelvic tilt, or you do it with a bent spine and a posterior pelvic tilt. This change has a huge impact on the range of motion. The hamstrings are attached to your pelvis, so if you do this exercise with an anterior tilted pelvis, you put the hamstrings in a stretched position before you even bend yourself forward. This and the straight thoracic spine will massively decrease your range of motion. If you do it with a posterior pelvic tilt and aim for as much spinal flexion as possible, you will get the most possible range of motion out of this movement. Besides from the right position, it can still be a mobility problem. So here are the best exercises to increase the mobility for that movement. The easiest is to do the exercise itself. If you can't touch your toes, just go as deep as possible and place your hands on your shin bones or ankles. We suggest you to do it dynamically or to do a mix between a dynamic and a static version. The single leg deadlift is the next exercise, and the great thing about it is that you work with both sides separately. Some people have imbalances, so it might be that one side is not as mobile as the other one. With this exercise you make sure that you can address these imbalances and improve them. Another way to be able to touch your toes is by starting in a push-up position. Here you simply walk as close to your legs as possible. To make it more effective, don't go all the way back to a push-up position, but only work in the last part of your current range of motion. Again, you can do it dynamically or mix a dynamic with a static execution. The second exercise is the deep squat and overhead reach. This exercise is great because it combines the complete lower and upper body. To be able to do a deep squat and overhead reach, you need a good ankle, hip, spine and shoulder mobility. The goal is to keep your upper body completely straight and go as deep as you can without losing the tension in the lowest position. The deep squat should be an active movement, not a passive one. If you aren't able to go all the way down, don't compensate it by crouching your upper body forward. This pulls everything out of place and will lead to nowhere. You should also aim for straight arms, outward rotated hips, and an evenly distributed load on your feet. If you have problems with this exercise, you should work on your deep squat and your shoulder mobility. For the deep squat, you could work with the exercise itself while holding yourself onto an object. In this way you won't lose balance and fall backwards if your ankle mobility is not on point. Try to go all the way down, aim for a straight spine, rotate your thighs outward and push your knees forward without raising your heel from the ground. Ignore the old myth that the knees shouldn't travel in front of your toes. This is simply not true and is different for everyone, depending on your anatomy, individual stance width and knee health. To work on your shoulder mobility, you could do the downward dog with bent knees. This is good to work on the shoulder and not on the hamstrings and calves in the first place. Try to move your armpits toward your toes as far as possible and aim for straight arms. Another great drill to improve your shoulder mobility, and this time an active movement, is laying on your belly and raising your straight arms as much as you can. Don't confuse this exercise with an arch up. You only want to raise your arms, not your upper body or your legs. To make it right, push your legs and chest into the ground, tilt your pelvis backwards and keep your neck straight, for example by touching the ground with your nose. A good indicator for the right execution is to lift your belly off the ground. If you lack in shoulder mobility, it's getting nearly impossible to raise your straight arms from the ground with this kind of execution. But even if you can't lift them, it's still a good way to improve your shoulder mobility as long as you tense your muscles and try to raise your arms as high as possible. Later, when you improved your mobility, you can do this exercise with additional weight to not only work on your mobility, but also on your stability. The improved mobility and stability will give you many benefits for exercises like handstand, military press, snatch, and many others. The last exercise is the reverse plank bridge. We showed this exercise in some of our videos before and got a lot of comments from people who have massive problems to lift their body to a nearly horizontal position. In the most cases, the reason for this is the lack of shoulder mobility. The reverse plank bridge has two major benefits. First is the activation of your complete posterior chain, which includes your hamstrings, glutes, rear delts, triceps, traps, and erector spinae. The second benefit is the stretching of your anterior chain, especially the biceps, the pecs, and your front delts. If these muscles are too tight, you will have problems to completely raise your body. Because the more you raise your body, the more your shoulders have to extend, and this results in a stretch of these muscles. If your shoulder mobility is well and you still have problems, it could also be that you lack in glute, hamstrings, and back strength. You can test it by just trying to do a glute hand bridge. Here you just activate these muscles and don't use your arms to lift your body. If this is easy for you, the main problem is the mentioned shoulder mobility. You can do the reverse plank bridge with fingers pointing forward or backward. The version with fingers pointing backward is usually the one where you can raise yourself higher. This is because you outward rotate your shoulders, which gives you a higher possible range of motion for your shoulder extension and a better scapular movement. When you do this exercise, always try to bring your shoulder blades together and raise your chest and butt as high as possible. To get better at this exercise, you should start by doing it dynamically. Raise your body up as much as you can and let yourself down controlled. You could also do a combination in which you mix the active bridge with the passive shoulder extension movement. Hold the passive position for about 10 seconds and do 5 reps of the dynamic active version right after it. Repeat this for about 60 to 90 seconds. Later, when you progress, you should include longer static holds. You could just hold the top position, or you can do a combination of the passive and active version again. For example, 15 seconds passive hold, 15 seconds active hold. If you now want to take your mobility to the next level or just want to start with a program that fits to your goals and is simple but effective, you should check our new mobility program. The program is divided into 3 different levels and is based around a flow that combines different exercises in a highly efficient way. The program includes exercises for beginners, but also additional mobility exercises for advanced athletes for the V-sit, front and side split, and the press to handstand. If you want to know more about it, just visit our website and get your mobility program now. If you have further questions, just leave a comment. Thanks, Alex.